Okay, I just want to thank everyone for coming today. I do want to reiterate to everyone that this meeting is being recorded and we will share the recording in the epicenter task for this item. I'm going to actually share my screen, obviously, to make this work. Okay. Lydia, can you confirm that you can see my screen?
Yes, I see your screen.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. All right. So we have a couple of things that are going on. Up on my screen, if you've been around for any length of time, is a form that looks very familiar to you. NRS 392.462 required us to collect the data found on this form. And how it used to work was we used to give this to you every quarter. You would fill it out, and it had the expulsion tab, it had the suspension tab, and it had the bullying tab. Well, what happened was in 2023, AB 285 passed, and that required the collection of some additional data, but it was also data that was very overlapped with this report. And so when we got the template for the AB 285 data, I was like, oh my goodness, we cannot ask these schools to do another discipline report on top of what they're already doing. So we have been working with UNR and NDE to create one report that can be used for all the things. And we have finally got it to the finish line after months and months and months. So that is actually what I am going to train you on today. So I'm going to switch gears a little bit. I wanted to show you this first because this is familiar to you. If you've been around, you've been doing this, okay? So now there is a new form. Next year, you will do this quarterly, okay? You will only do this. We'll have it as a quarterly epicenter task so you can stay on top of it. You don't fall behind. But unfortunately, it took this long to get the form to where it was one consolidated form instead of multiple forms for you to fill out. I hope that makes sense. So it looks a little bit different, but ultimately it is the same. So I'm going to walk you through right here where my cursor is. You'll fill out the school year. You will fill out the quarter. You will put your school code and you will put your school name. I'm calling it Sample Charter School. Okay. Then right here, and the directions are all right here in the side, but I thought it would be easier to just show you as well. Right here, you have quarter one. You're going to put your student population by subgroup for the quarter in. So in my perfect sample charter school, there's exactly 100 kids. You can see how they're broken out, right? By ethnicity and then my subgroups, okay? And you can see exactly how that is broken out. And you can get that data, from Infinite Campus. So the first, then you scroll over, and the first column, we combined the bullying and cyberbullying into one table. So just like before, you're going to have reported and determined to be so after an investigation. The one part that is new is discrimination based on race. So there's another law that's making us keep track of that. So we added it here. So again, it could be one report. So I'm just going to play this out. Let's pretend that at my sample charter school, we had 2 reported cases of bullying. One of those was a discrimination based on race, and only one of those was determined to be so after an investigation, and one of those resulted in a suspension. This should be a 2. Let's say that of those 2 of the students, one of the students was white, one of the students was Hispanic, and the one that was determined to be so was a white student, so I put it there, right? 2 of them were qualified for free and reduced lunch, and 2 of them qualified for IEPs. One of them resulted in determined to be so after an investigation, and the student that was free and reduced lunch was also the student that was suspended. And so it goes right there. Okay. So you're going to fill this out. Then over here, you have bullying, right? Okay. There were 5 reported bullying incidents among girls. Only one of them determined to be so after an investigation, and none of them resulted in a suspension. I would fill out the same information down here that I just did over there, right? Their ethnicity, if they're in any of the other special subpopulations listed here. Then you scroll over for quarter 1 and you say, okay, what were my suspensions? Okay, this should all look very, very familiar. Violence to other students, violence to staff, sexual assault, distribution of a controlled substance, possession or use of a controlled substance, possession or use of alcohol, weapons, firearms. This one, I believe, is new, code of honor violations, other suspensions due to reasons not listed here. And then it's automatically totaling for you over here. So you go and you fill those in for the quarter, and you come over to the expulsions. Expulsions are rare. We didn't have any. I didn't add any to this. And that's what you do for every single quarter. Again, you would not, next year, you'll do this every, but this time you're going to have to do it for the entire school year, okay? Then you'll do the same thing for quarter 2. My attendance is perfect my enrollment is perfect over here at Sample Charter School. My attendance never changes. No kids ever withdraw, leave, or become qualified for an IEP throughout the school year in my perfect little world over here that I have created. So I put my correct Q2 enrollment data, and I do the same thing. What was my bullying and cyberbullying? What were my suspensions? What were my expulsions? And I do that for every single quarter, quarter 3, quarter 4. Okay, this is not very different from what you've been doing in the past. The only thing that makes it a little bit different is you do have to put your enrollment here, okay, in the first section there. These next tabs down at the bottom where they're orange and they say suspension and expulsion, quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3, quarter 4. You don't put anything in here. The data from these tables is going to populate these. And these are actually going to provide you, your counseling staff, your MTSS team, your boards of directors with some really valuable data about things like suspension and expulsion by race, risk index by subgroup, risk ratio compared with other subgroups. So there is going to be really useful data in here for you to consider as you're making decisions for your school. But you do not have to put any data in here. All of these orange tabs are going to populate from this original tab right here. And it says that very clearly right here. This sheet will auto-populate. So don't open this in panic. You don't have to do anything. If you do this original tab correctly, it will be correct. But your work is not done there, unfortunately. So past those orange tabs, you will see a vacancy tab. Okay. On the vacancy tab, you're going to fill this out for every quarter of the year. You're going to include your district name, which for you will just be SPCSA, your district code, your school name, your school code, the number of vacant licensed staff positions, and the number of vacant unlicensed staff positions. The key takeaway here that I want you to make sure and get right is that if you have a long-term sub, someone with only a sub license as a teacher of record, you count that as a vacant position. So if I have 3 4th grade teachers at my school and 2 of them have a traditional endorsement and 1 of them has a sub license, I have 1 vacant 4th grade position. Okay, so if they have a sub license, it counts as a vacant position. Other than that, should be pretty easy. Average class size. We just got this worked out with NDE literally moments ago. So Molly, we are going to have to update the template before this goes live for schools in Epicenter, because the way it originally read was that you could only count someone teaching K2 if they had an early childhood endorsement. I don't need to explain to you why that's a bad idea. So they have changed that, and they are going to allow elementary endorsements to count. We also got clarity that subs can count on this report. This report is very similar to what your Infinite Campus person is running for you for the accountability report card. So if you show this to that person who helps you with your accountability report card, they're going to know how to do this. There's a very simple report to pull from Infinite Campus. You can count subs, right? So quarter one, you're just going to list the number of kids you had in every grade level. Then down here, you're going to enter the average or the total educators, your ADE, and then it's going to calculate that for you. And that's just how it works. You just keep going and see how it automatically calculates. So total educators are 2, average class size 22. Total educators are 2, average class size is 22. And it just goes all the way over through 12th grade. Obviously, you will leave that blank if you do not serve those grades. And then the last, or the next tab is the training received. So you're going to list the number of teachers and administrators in school who had at least 2 of the required trainings in INRS 388-133, and it lists those trainings. So you just read those and indicate how many people had those trainings for each quarter of the year. Pupil placement, the number of students who enroll in, this is not going to apply to charter schools. So this is like, you know, if someone's in a school district and they get sent to like a certain like behavioral school or somewhere off campus, I don't think any charter school is going to have to fill out pupil placement. And then the final one is called ratios. Don't ask me why it's called that, because it really is about the number of counselors, psychologists, and social workers you have. So again, you're going to put your total number of students, how many licensed counselors, psychologists, and social workers you have throughout the school year for each quarter. Are there any questions? It is pretty self-explanatory. I am sorry that you have to do the whole year all at once, because it is going to be kind of a heavy lift, but it will not be like that next year. Next year, we will have you do it quarterly, so it's easier to stay up on. And if there aren't any questions, this video will be available in the Epicenter task. And then the last thing I want to end on is a piece of positive news. You have not, I don't think, unless you got it since this meeting started, you have not received your quarterly workbook yet, but you should be getting your quarterly payment workbook today or tomorrow from NDE. I'm pointing that out because there was a calculation error in the previous workbooks, and to the tune of about $2 million. So every single charter school should be seeing an increase to their special education state money that they're receiving this quarter, which is awesome. So I did want to just point that out to you so that you could go in and check that and see, you know, what additional funds you're going to have to help cover your special ed costs this year. Hopefully you'll have to transfer less money from your general fund in than you were anticipating. And with that, those are all the updates I have, unless you have any questions.